before we move into the pros and cons of doing this whole build a portfolio in your super, what are some of like the costs or maybe, I know every single accountant's different, right? But like, what are some average costs of setup, and then what are some average costs of maintenance? Because if somebody does have 130K and they can do it, like, they should know like what some of the costs are getting involved.
Yeah. Well, and this is part of why ASIC's guidance is around that 200 to 250,000 is because the fees to open a super fund and to maintain it, especially in the first year when you put it all together in that first 12 months, to set up a super fund just on its own with nothing, not expecting to get a property or anything like that, it's usually between say 2.5 and maybe $3,000 to set up the self-managed super fund. And then if you're going to go down property routes, there's a few other things that you need to do as well, which we'll chat about, which can add another sort of 1,000 maybe to it.
Yeah.
And then ongoing costs, because with the self-managed super fund, it's in the title, it's self-managed, so you've got to do it all yourself. So what you need to do as far as compliance is, tax returns annually, financials, and you need to get it audited independently.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes out to someone else. And then those costs all vary. Usually it's based on the complexity of the fund. If you've just got a self-managed super fund, and all you've got is a share portfolio and that's it, then, that compliance burden might be a bit less for the accountant, so they might charge you a bit less. I've seen usually it starts at maybe around 1,500 for your more basic super funds. Yeah, per year.
Yeah.
And that might be for tax, financials, and audit all bundled in.
Yeah.
And then the higher end, I've seen as much as $5,000 or more. So when you start, adding complexity, you add a property, you got share portfolio, one property, maybe two properties, term deposits, all sorts of stuff going on, then they start charging you, a lot more for that. Okay. So it can vary quite a lot. On average, it's usually maybe around 3,000 per year.
Yeah. So 3,000 per year for management, and then roughly entry costs is what, like a couple of grand?
Yeah, I'd probably say, if you're just trying to get some rough ideas, probably around 3 as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, plus GST. So, and that's why when you take that as a percentage of your whole fund, especially if you've only got 150,000 or less, that's a pretty big percentage in fees that you're paying straight away. And then that's what ASIC are trying to, help people with, is not losing so much in fees to get set up. The problem you do have is when you stay on a retail or an industry fund, is you're on a platform, and those platforms usually charge a percentage fee. So those fees increase as your balance increases. And there's usually a tipping point where once your balance is at a certain point, the super fund may be charging you $6,000 or $7,000 a year in fees. So then it ends up actually being cheaper for you to move across to a self-managed super fund, even if you're not buying property.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's cheaper doing it that way.